The M1000 Classic has been hotly debated since Deep Rock Galactic's update 34. Some are saying they don't like the direction the M1000 Classic is going in, others don't like that their build has changed, and some are happy that their build is even better now. This is only one of quite a few things that has Deep Rock Galactic's update 34 as the most controversial update, at least the most controversial update in the last year. I think if we can take a step back and look at what the weapon balance did to each weapon, we can then come to an agreement on whether Scout is in a better or worse place now. I want to go over whether the M1000 Classic was nerfed in this video, but if you check out the next video, you'll learn if the jury-rigged boomstick was nerfed as well. I think this approach makes sense, right? If the Scout's weapons or most of the Scout's weapons got buffed, the class itself got buffed. If the Scout's weapons were mostly nerfed, then obviously the class got nerfed. It feels like I'm the only one saying this, but I think update 34 is actually a pretty good update. I've got an entire video prepared on why I think update 34 is one of the best updates we've gotten since 1.0 launched last year. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. So the M1000 Classic got some considerable changes to its base that ultimately betters the entire weapon. It's a bit strange that the base weak point damage was removed, since the M1000 Classic has kind of felt like a precision rifle rather than a battle rifle. It's always reminded me of Destiny's hand cannons where you just bang 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 one tap enemies with precision hits. 3 base changes were made. The base focus speed was increased from 1.55 seconds to 1.6 seconds. The base damage was increased from 50 to 55 damage per shot, and the base weak point damage was removed completely. It gave bullets 10% extra damage for weak point shots. Overall, I think the base M1000 Classic was buffed, which is great when you consider that this is now better for new Scout players in Deep Rock Galactic, or players that haven't done many deep dives yet. The M1000 Classic is now more of a battle rifle than a sniper rifle. They just announced the Scout is getting a plasma rifle, but we also saw a teaser of a crossbow, which should give players that want a skill versus reward weapon. My favorite changes to the M1000 Classic are the rebalancing of mods. Most of the rebalancing was toning down the strength of must-pick mods and moving that difference to the base weapon. If you still use the same build as before, you won't notice a difference, but now, more mod options and builds can better compete. And then the hardened rounds mod was moved to tier 2. This opens up crowd control builds so you can either pair hardened rounds with super blow through rounds or run hollow point bullets instead so you can one-shot grunts. Specifically, here's what the rebalancing of mods did. For the fast charging coils mod, the focus speed was reduced from a 30% bonus to a 25% bonus, and that difference was moved to the base weapon for an overall neutral change. Hollow point bullets got a small nerf. The damage bonus was reduced from a 25% bonus to weak point shots to now only a 20% bonus. And then lastly, the precision terror mod got a pretty big buff. The range was increased from a 3.5 meter radius to a 4 meter radius, and the fear factor increased from 200% to 250%, so now enemies are more likely to be feared by precision terror. 4 of the M1000 Classic's overclocks also got changed. I'm going to chalk up the minimal clips overclock to a buff, and maybe at worst it could be a neutral change. 16 less max ammo is a loss in sustained damage for sure. It's also 1 less magazine's worth of ammo for killing bugs, but in practice it probably just means that you need that resupply pod a little more. But now, you get 25% more ammo in the magazine, and with extended clip your mag size is almost double, so you'll do more killing and less reloading. So overall, I think this change is a slight buff, but at worst maybe a neutral change. So like, yeah, the active stability system overclock was nerfed, but the focus speed was only reduced by less than 1%, so how about we just agree that that was a neutral change, since in practice, nothing really changed. The Hister overclock's damage penalty is now a flat -18 to damage, instead of 60% reduction of damage. This change is either a buff or a nerf depending on the damage mods that you run or don't run. And then the max ammo bonus was increased. The last M1000 M1000 Classic change was to the supercooling chamber overclock. The ammo penalty was reduced by like 3%. It's not much, but the ammo penalty isn't as severe now. The focus speed penalty was also reduced from a 50% penalty to now only a 40% penalty, meaning that this overclock was buffed since the penalties were reduced. Again, the M1000 Classic is one of the most hotly debated weapon changes from update 34 right now. The most vocal of voices are saying how there's only two builds to use, hipster or active stability system. But if you look at what players are recommending to each other, everything is being recommended except for supercooling chamber overclock. What this shows is that the build diversity is actually in a pretty good place right now. Sure, you have hipster and active stability system if the way you prefer to play is to min-max your build, but I was surprised by how many players live by hoverclock. And then the minimal clips overclock is always a good option. My personal favorite is running a Fear of God build using electrocuting focus shots overclock and precision fear, which, by the way, just got a huge buff. So while some players may only be using a hipster or active stability system build right now, there's actually some other options that are completely viable to use too. There's more options for players than just maximizing damage per second. Let me know what you think about the M1000 Classic now and what builds you're running on Twitter or in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel for more free content like the best M1000 Classic builds to use. Thank you to those of you that have checked out and support me on Patreon, and thanks for watching.